Fun.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Are Dementia Strong. I'm Brian LeBlanc, and sitting out of camera, off camera, is Maureen Rulison, the owner of Caregiver Support and Resources, and also the sponsor of the live broadcast on Facebook. Um, Today we have a guest, and I've been knowing this individual for a number of years now. Finally got to meet him once in person, and it was he's he's a giant of a man. Um, I've always seen him sitting down, like you'll see him in just a moment. And meeting him in person, it's like, hey, hey, Harry, how are you? And, but anyway, Harry, thank you for joining us today. This is Harry Urban. And instead of me telling you about him, I'm going to allow him to tell you. What I will tell you before we start is that Harry also has a diagnosis of dementia. And first of all, Harry, what led you to get your diagnosis?
When I was working, when I was still working, I was at the top of the mountain. Okay, I was in the computer field, and I was one of the gurus of the computer field. So I was the one that got all the projects
Mm.
on. But I found out that I was starting to not meet the deadlines. I was forgetting things and things like that. Now that's when uh, that's when I was like 55, and they were the years that if you were 55 and older, you had a bullseye on your back.
Hmm.
And in all honesty, I didn't want to get laid off. So they offered an early retirement program for years in service, and I jumped on that right away, and I retired. Well, after a month or so, um, I decided that my hearing was so bad, I was going to get it tested. So um, I went and had it tested, and my hearing was so bad, they sent me for an MRI to rule out a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
And it turned out I didn't have a brain tumor, but that led me into the other testing of dementia. And after the testing of dementia and having a family history of Alzheimer's, I was given a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Now, since then, I've been showing more signs of vascular dementia. So everybody says, well, Harry, why don't you be retested for vascular dementia? And my opinion is, what good's it going to do? It's not going to change anything. So I'll live with the diagnosis of Alzheimer's
Yeah.
with vascular as a secondary, if you want to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with you there.
Mhm.
um, so, and this is going to probably surprise people, but how many years have how many how many years ago were you diagnosed with your Alzheimer's?
Okay. This past January, I was diagnosed 17 years ago. Now, you have to realize that you could be living with dementia 5, 10 years prior to that. And when I look back at my working days of what led me into retiring, I can believe that. But I also believe that you can't just sit around and let your dementia take over your life. You have to do your job, and that's what I try to stress, that now everybody's different. Um, and I hear all the, well, we can't do that stories, and okay, that's fine, but you have to keep busy, you have to keep healthy, and you have to keep trying to do new things. That's so important. Don't sit back and say, I can't do that anymore. Say, I can't do that the way I used to do it, but I'm going to do it a different way.
Instead of just giving up, you're going to find your own way to be able to do it.
Absolutely. Brian, I used to always use the example of my woodworking. Now, I used to do a lot of woodworking. I used to build furniture and stuff like that. But in all honesty, it's unsafe for me to use a lot of the power tools I used to do. And I have a hard time with calculations now. So I had the choice: do I give up the love of woodworking, or do I find other things that's going to satisfy me? And that's what I got into wood turning, because wood turning is relatively safe. Um, and I get, no matter what I make, if it's a pen, a bowl, a plate, or whatever, I get the same gratifications I got when I was making furniture.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's awesome. And speaking of the pens, um, for Maureen's birthday, which was back in the beginning of the year, um, I called Harry and asked him if he would be so gracious to make Maureen a pen. And not only did he make her one, but he made her two. And these are the pens that Harry made. They're, I'm trying to center it there. I mean, this is something that he made with his own two hands and some machinery, but they're beautiful. They're beautiful. I mean, these are actually what I would call works of art, in the way that they're shaped and so forth. It's just they're absolutely beautiful.
I need to tell her
And
something.
okay, Maureen wants to tell you something.
So, Harry, my mom has vascular dementia and is in an assisted living and follows you. So she will tell me every time we talk or see each other all about Harry. So thank you.
Oh, that's so nice to hear.
Yeah, you have a fan club you didn't even know about.
Oh, yeah.
So I was going to ask about, you've been living with dementia for 17 years, and your secret that you follow, the secret that you utilize, is to get involved with your woodworking and so forth, because we've all basically had to find our own niche, as far as what is going to keep us focused, what is going to uh, allow our minds to continue working, and and it's just phenomenal what you have done. And I was going to ask you what's your secret, but staying mentally strong has been your woodworking. but you also have a new addition to your family that helps take care of you.
Hmm.
You want to tell us a little bit about Bella?
Oh, sure. I had a companion dog prior to Bella, and her name was Jade. The, she was a Rottweiler, but she developed cancer, and we had to have her put down. And it left such a it left such a void in my life. But I kept saying, I don't know if I'm strong enough to lose another dog, you know. But um, common sense and a little kick from my wife changed things, and um, we got Bella. She's a Rottweiler now. She's right now she's 14 weeks old, going on 22. Um, she's a handful, but she's filling that void in my life. She's giving me back. She's giving me back the joy. And it's funny how pets can do that. Now, um, I hear so many people tell me stories about their cats or the birds, and the principle was the same. And it's the same thing of living well with any kind of dementia. I always say you have to have a passion. You have to have a passion in life. You have to have a reason to get up in the morning and go to bed at night. And once you find what your passion is, now some people do stamp collecting, some people do coloring books. It doesn't matter. But as long as it's something that you love, you're going to do well. And that's what I found out with Bella. Now, like I said, she's a handful. It's been a lot of years since we did puppy training, but one thing one thing Bella taught me, or no, retaught me, was patience.
Mm.
You know, because I always say you have to fight the battles that matter and let the rest go. I said that with Alzheimer's. Don't worry about the little things, you know. And she's teaching me patience. Now I'm not a very patient person. I'm so used to Jade. Now Jade would understand all my commands and she would follow them without. Now we've had her 10 years, so she was pretty well trained. Now Bella is 14 weeks, and she's a handful.
Yeah.
But she's learning. She's trying,
Right.
and that dog is giving me more love than I deserve. Unconditional love.
They have a habit of doing that.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yeah.
Tell everyone the story you shared with us about Jade when y'all would go for your walks.
Yeah, like I said, I trained Jade to be what I call my companion dog. Now, a lot of people get um, support dogs and stuff like that, but Jade was my companion. She was with me all the time. Now, uh, when I used to walk her, she was actually walking me. When I would walk her, I would always take the same route because I have Alzheimer's and it's easy for me to get lost. Okay, so I always ended up in front of my house with the circle that I made. And when I got in front of the house, if I wanted to continue walking, Jade would sit and let me know that we were home. And that's the kind of dog I want. Like like a lot of times. Now this is really weird. I love to go out on my bench underneath my tree and sit, but sometimes it rains. And Jade, now sitting under the tree, you don't realize it's raining. Yeah, because you're protected. Yeah, you might get a little drought, but living with dementia, you don't think that. Oh my God, I'm getting wet. So, but Jade would let me know it's raining. She might tug on me to let me know that, hey, dummy, it's time to go in. That's the kind of dog I want. That's the kind of dog I hope Bella turns out to be, and I think she will.
Yeah.
Now she might laugh at me a little time, like, hey, look at that dummy. But
He wants me to do what? Okay, so we showed everyone the pens that you made for Maureen, but could you also show everyone things that you have created with your woodworking?
Yeah.
Or wood turning, I should
Yeah.
say.
Now with wood turning, I can only make so many pens until I get bored.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and when I'm turning wood, everything is round. It's either bowl, plate, something like that. So I started thinking to myself that I want to be more creative. I want to use my mind and be more creative. So I found out that I can start turning with resin, okay, and make a mold. So the first thing I thought of is, gee, I wonder if I can make a bowl out of playing cards. Okay. And oops, this is what I made. Okay, now I put potpourri inside it, and my mistakes was that's why it's so short. It was because this was a learning curve of turning resin. Okay, and then another project I did is I had a hunk of walnut. It was a burr of walnut, and it was too small to do anything with. So I thought, gee, I wonder if I can make a mold and make something with that that burr of wood. So this is what I made. Oops. I
Wow.
turned on it's a Voda candle holder. So then I thought, okay, I'm getting pretty adventurous now. What else can I make? So I thought, gee, I wonder if I can make. Oh, I don't have it done here, but I wonder if I can make something out of stones. So this is what I made out of stones, out of pebbles.
Wow.
And I also made I also made one out of colored pebbles, but that's upstairs. Now my next project is I was thinking, gee, what can I make out of pine cones? So I got a bag of pine cones, and I'm going to try to make something a bowl out of that.
Huh.
So the point of this is you have to be creative. Okay, you have to force yourself into being creative. Now, I could get a hunk of wood and I could turn it into a bowl, but that's not being creative because they're all the same.
Yeah.
It's the wood that makes them different, but the shape and everything, a bowl's a bowl. But how many people has a bowl made out of playing cards? How many people has a bowl made out of stones? You
Not
know,
that many.
no, I mean, Brian, you can't go on Amazon and buy this stuff.
Right, right. You're not kidding there. Um,
Melinda asked a
yeah.
question.
Yes. Melinda asked, what exactly is the process of wood turning?
I'm guessing it involves turning the wood.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, I used to have a big lathe.
Okay.
Wood turning lathe. But in all honesty, Brian, um, I I got too aggressive on it. I I tried to do things that I'm no longer capable of doing. So I went down to a what they call a mini lathe, which is a much smaller lathe. But I can turn stuff up into 10 inches round. Anything bigger than that is too dangerous for me to turn. So
Gotcha.
that and it's very simple. You put the wood on, you secure the wood on the lathe. Now you have to make sure that it's secure, that it's not going to fly up and hit you in the face, But that's
Yeah,
safety.
that's kind of
basic
important.
safety things. And then you just cut out the pieces of wood that you don't want. Now, like when I start turning something, I never know what it's going to turn out to be because wood's different. All wood's different. The grain's different. I might be turning and all of a sudden a chunk flies out. Well, there goes that beautiful bowl. Well, this is going to be a cup, instead of a bowl. So I never know what it's going to turn. And it's the same thing with pens. Now, you can make pens look the same, but I try to make my pens look different.
Right.
And I should have had this in front of me before, but
that's all right.
Here's a case that I have my various pens in.
Oh, wow.
And it's it has so many different drawers in it.
Oh, geez.
3 different drawers in it. And what's nice about that, they're all different. None of them looks the same.
Right.
And it's because I'm not capable of duplicating something.
Yeah.
It's going to be different. So but that's the fun of it.
Well, like we always say, when you know one person with dementia, you know one person. And that means that you're going to create something. And then when you go to create something like it, it's not going to turn out the same way. Because you might, in the middle of it, say, hey, I'm going to try something different and do that. It just boggles my mind because I do coloring online. I have coloring books, and sometimes I'll take those out and do stuff with them. But it's just that creativity that makes you feel alive. And plus, it kind of keeps the pistons, the pistons of the brain, keeps those firing. And if you stop, then that's not going to be it's not going to be good.
No,
because that's where the decline comes in.
Yeah.
And you and I both don't want that to happen.
I call that giving up.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of times when I'm turning something, I turn a lot of ugly things and pass it on as a work of art. But sometimes they end up in the burn barrel,
Yeah.
you know. And I never get discouraged if I make a mistake. You know, it's I look at it, it's a learning curve.
Right.
You know, now if I keep making the same mistake, yeah, that's dumb. But if I learn by it, then that's good.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Um, so I had a question. I'm trying to remember what it was.
I have one.
Maureen has a question.
How has COVID affected you, Harry?
How is what?
COVID-19.
Oh, now Hazel and I both had our second shots, and I was like, "Oh, we'll leave." But it hasn't affected me as much as it affected everybody else. Okay, because I know what isolation is. I live it. I live it every day. You know, um, and not being able to have social gatherings, well, that doesn't bother me either. You know, now I do miss our memory cafes, and I'm hoping we can start them back up. Now I do virtual memory cafes, but they're not the same. Um, I missed the social contact, but uh, it bothers me, Gary O'Brien, that I try so hard to stay alive, and I hear people saying that they're not going to get the the COVID vaccination. Now that's their choice. I'm not going to put them down for that. But
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, do you have a good reason why you're not going to now? If it's because of a political outlook, well, my friend's not getting it, so I'm not going to get it. Well, I'm fighting so hard to stay alive. I'm fighting so hard to keep the level of life I'm living now. And I see people that don't care. You know,
Yeah.
it breaks my heart because I went through that. You know, we all went through that, and we know now. Like we both we both went into the pits of dementia. We know what it's like living this. And then you see somebody that won't wear a mask. A simple thing like they
Yeah.
refuse to wear a mask. I just want to go up and shake them.
Yeah.
And they say, "Well, that's my right." Yeah, that's true, but let's get over that. You know, let's get down to the nitty gritty. What if you die? You can die right. That doesn't care if you're right or wrong. You're just dead.
Yeah. I agree with the. I'm very OCD when we go to grocery shopping or just going anywhere where you have to push a basket. And
Yeah,
I know that they say they wipe them down and everything else, but I always get more wet wipes, and I start, I wipe it down myself because I know where my hands are going to touch and so forth. So I'm a little bit paranoid about that, but we do what we feel is making us safer than just taking the word of other people. We feel the same way. We see people all the time not wearing a mask.
yeah.
And we've also gotten both of our shots. So, but we still wear a mask.
Oh yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, and it's not so much that we're not spreading the disease, but there are people that are walking around without a mask, and they probably have no idea of whether or not they have, if they're a carrier or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I know it's people's right to do what they want to do.
I
You
liken
know?
it to drunk driving. If you choose to go and drink and then get behind the wheel of a car and kill someone, that's murder. If you choose not to wear a mask or get your shot and you kill someone because you spread COVID, that's murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I guess it's been close to a month and a half, 2 months ago. I had an episode. Now, my wife was working, so I was here at the house unsupervised by myself. Well, that's a danger in itself. Okay, but I couldn't breathe. For some reason, I couldn't breathe. Now I don't know if it was panic or whatever set in, but we have we have enough um, policies set up that if there's an emergency, I know what to do. Like we have all the emergency information by our side and stuff like that. But to make a long story short, my breathing got so bad that I called 911. I called an ambulance. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't think the ambulance would make it to me in time. I thought I was going to die.
Oh wow.
I was sitting on my on my steps waiting on the ambulance, and I thought I was going to die. So they took me to the hospital, and at first first thing that came into my mind was COVID. Now this is prior to me having my shots.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh my God, this is what COVID's like. But my COVID test came back negative. Uh, the testing that they did find some irregularities with my heart, but they didn't think that contributed. So then they went to my lungs. And make a long story short, they uh, they diagnosed me as having some form of asthma. Okay, so it was like a week later, the same thing happened. But Hazel was home at the time, and she ran me into the hospital, and they did more tests and more tests, and that's when I had to learn what triggers asthma attacks. Okay, now once you learn what triggers your asthma attack, you can avoid them. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to have them, but the first thing I thought about is, oh my God, it's my wood turning. I'm going to have to give up my wood turning. But I wore a mask, I wore a complete face shield when I'm wood turning, with respirator, the whole 9 yards. So I'm pretty protected with that. But it's the same thing with living with dementia. You have to know what causes your dementia anxiety attacks. That's what I call them. And once you learn those secrets, you could avoid a lot of the problems of living with dementia.
Hmm.
Like I I can sense myself now when I'm getting stressed out. So I'm an ambassador for Sentimenta. It's
Mm-hmm.
an Italian group. Okay, now the Sentimenta philosophy of caring for somebody with dementia is completely different than ours. Here in the States, um, if you have a a depression attack, let's say, here's a pill
Yeah.
that's going to fix you up. Well, they don't do that over there. Why are you depressed? Okay. And then they treat that. And that's my philosophy now is, there's no shortcuts in living with dementia. There is always a reason for why we do the things we do. And you have to, like, if somebody won't eat, let's say, and that's one of the biggest problems it is with people living with dementia. They refuse to eat. And at the One Memory Cafe, we had a woman, and she was saying that her husband just refuses to eat. And I said to her, well, demonstrate. She said, I even feed him. I said, well, demonstrate to me how you feed him. And she says, well, I go. And of course, I jumped back. Now, I overreacted, but I said, you have to learn those secrets, those little secrets, how to feed somebody. And then I told her, I said, put the spoon in his hand and guide his hand up. And that helps him eat. Little secrets like that, we all have to learn. And unfortunately, you can't buy a book.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. So we live in this disease has to share that information with others. Those little tips we know.
Yeah. And that's, I go through the same thing with my anxiety. I feel it coming on. And, especially if we're out somewhere, Maureen will notice it. I won't. But I start rocking.
Yes.
And she makes me laugh because she
Wapner at 4.
Yeah. The Rain Man, when the character would rock back and forth whenever he got anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I do. And she calms me just by saying breathe.
Yeah.
Taking deep breaths and things of that. But there again, what works for you works for you, and what works for me works for me.
Absolutely.
And that's the hard part of having these diseases, because of the fact that it's structured for you, not for anyone else. Yeah, if that one person, then that's it.
Yeah. That's why we try to teach meditation.
Yeah.
To calm yourself down. Okay.
Maureen just hit me because she's trying to get me to do that, and I've kind of been a little bit reluctant.
Yeah, well, Hazel uses the baseball bat, Maureen. maybe that'll help. But I also try to teach people how to visualize. Now, I was introduced to visualization years ago, and that's where you kind of relax, close your eyes, and you visualize you someplace else.
Right.
Now, with me, there you go. Now, it might have to be a little bit bigger. She's standing behind you with the baseball bat. I visualize walking the streets of Williamsburg.
Okay.
And that just calms me down. Some people like to visualize of sitting on the beach, listening to the waves. Now, if you practice enough, like when I visualize walking the streets of Williamsburg, I can actually hear the sounds, the smells. I'm in Williamsburg. Okay, because we try to teach you how to trick your mind to be someplace else.
Right.
And
Well,
once you learn those little secrets,
I know.
like if I'm here by myself and I get really uptight and anxiety, there's nobody there to help me calm down. So I have to learn how to do it on my own.
Wow.
I have to say, okay, Harry, deep breaths, and close your eyes and visualize you someplace else.
Well, maybe that's
That works for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know what I could try that and see, but it just happens. But well, listen, we're about out of time. But what I would like to do is in the next couple of months, I'd like to have you back so we can continue this conversation.
Sure.
It's really been good when you have two people with a dementia related illness. Beth Reiner just wrote Disney World does it for me. I can close my eyes and envision me there.
Yeah.
And that's my happy place.
Well, see, I used to tell people I always put on Kenny G, and that calms me down. And people said, "Oh my God, if I were listening to Kenny G, I'd want to kill somebody." So everybody's different.
Everybody has their own their own excuse me, their own opinion.
Exactly.
Well, listen, this has been such a joy to catch up with you and so forth. Maybe next time you'll have some more creations you can share with us.
Sure.
And I have no doubt that you'll have more stories.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a storyteller.
So, Harry, thank you so much for joining us today. And just keep on keeping on, because that's basically the best thing that we can do.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful day.
All right.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Bye-bye.
You got me coughing here.